In this video essay, I will explain different things about storytelling as well as speak about why storytelling is so important in the creative industry. The three key elements of storytelling are narrative, conflict resolution and characters. The conflict within a story is an obstacle in the story that must be overcome to drive the plot forward. This could be anything from an actual fight to an internal struggle the character is having, like with Tyler Durden and the narrator in Fight Club. While resolution is what happens at the climax of a story where the conflict is resolved, and the plot of the story moves into the aftermath, otherwise known as the falling action. You can see this happening very clearly in horror movies like Friday the 13th when the final girl defeats the killer. In every kind of story you have different types of characters. Like antagonists who are the main opposition to the protagonists in the story, and protagonists who are usually the hero and opposition to the antagonists. These characters can be flat, having little to no development and not being very complex, like a lot of side characters who are usually in supporting roles like comic relief. Or round, having development throughout the story and having depth and complexity like a lot of main characters. There's also different character archetypes. These are the categories different characters fit in depending on the type of person they are. For example, Han Solo, who fits the outlaw archetype, a rule breaker who lives for shock and tries to evoke change. And Harry Potter, who fits the hero archetype, a character usually from humble beginnings fighting to do good. Long before the digital film of today, films were black and white, silent and comparatively very low quality, although still amazing for their time. In essence, they are simply a story that conveys ideas through the use of recorded moving images put onto film, and then projected onto screen. Although over time they have developed and incorporated things like CGI, a form of computer animation, film is still at its core very simplistic and beautiful in its own way. Animation has existed longer than you might think, but computer animation is the result of years of development and improvements to the original ways of animating, becoming an extremely diverse and interesting way to tell stories with a plethora of ways to make it truly unique to the storyteller. Computer animations essentially bring to life static images or objects by digitally introducing movement to them. How we tell our stories has changed a lot over time. Not only have our techniques changed, but our methods of delivering the story have changed a lot as well. A very good example of this are tabletop role-playing games, TTRPGs. They are a form of cooperative storytelling told by a dungeon master who controls the overall story, conflicts, and the players, who explore the world and decide how to deal with the conflicts and how to navigate the story. The basis of TTRPGs has remained the same over time, but the type of stories told, and how you can tell them has evolved to be more accessible to a wider range of audiences. In the original format you would need a board, a physical character sheet and dice, and it had to be played in person. Now all you need is some kind of electronic device and you can play without even having to buy much more than a rulebook. And now there's systems so you can play games set in the modern world, or even the future. TTRPGs are so diverse and accessible there's even different ways to play the exact same game. There are options for high combat games or low combat roleplay focused games, and even games based on exploring the world or ruling a kingdom. It is in my opinion the most diverse and interactive way of telling stories, and one of the best ways to show how we have changed our approach to storytelling, because regardless of what you add or change, the original way of playing it will always exist, but it is able to adapt to stay relevant.